Ham Fixin's Nets, first and third Monday, 7 p.m., W5FC.
This is KF5 JHA, just for a radio check.
This is the W5FC repeater, PL 110.9.
Chaz, if you were testing, you sounded just fine. NT5 TM.
Thank you, Tony. After last week, I wanted to make sure everything was still okay. Thank you so much. I'll be clear. Standing by.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before Skynet starts? This is N5BB. This is N5BB testing. Okay, Echolink is working, Billy. Okay. This is N5BB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. My name is Bill. Excuse my throat. I've got a frog that's hanging around the bottom of my throat. Anyway, I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for the net. You do not need to be a member of any club to participate. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time using the pro sign break and your call sign. This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That's me. And stations are reminded to identify at the end of your transmissions. That way we know you're finished talking. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using a W5FC-R station ID, which is Echolink node 37247. I am looking at Echolink right now, so I'm seeing what's going on over there. Billy says something happened to the tones, but I'm not sure what she's talking about. Anyway, tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-visual links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. As I said earlier, all amateur operators are welcome. The net is 90 minutes long, structured into several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening selected by the net control station, What's Up by Chaz, space exploration and history, Constellation of the week, space launches of the week, and recent astronomical discoveries. If we have time at the end, we'll do the visible satellite passages over the next few days and astronomical questions and answers, followed by 73 round. Again, all amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So first we're going to do RF check-ins. Let's start with short-time check-ins. Do we have any short-time check-ins? If so, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting. This is Skynet at 5BB.
November 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William and Allen. Short time.
Kilo Bravo 5 Delta Mike, Brian from Roanoke. Short time, no traffic.
Brian, I wasn't listening carefully enough. Give me your call sign again.
Kilo 5 Delta Mike, Brian from Roanoke. Short time, no traffic.
Oh boy, your signal broke up again. Give me your call sign one more time.
Kilo Bravo 5 Delta Mike, KB5DM.
We got you that time, Brian. Kilo Bravo 5 Delta Mike. Gotcha, Brian. Thank you very much. Do we have any other short-time check-ins? So I have N5WOI and KB5DM short time. Do either of you have anything they'd like to state, like any news, amateur radio-related news, or do you have any questions since you have to leave early? If so, please come now. Nothing heard. Now let's go for general RF check-ins. Anybody wanting to check into the net via RF, please come now with your call sign, name, and location. This is N5BB. Over.
This is Kilo India 5 Golf Hotel Melissa in Dallas.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
A5TX, BJ in Crandall.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Yes.
Kilo, Golf 5, Echo, India, Uniform, David, St. Paul, Texas.
Okay, let's pause there. David, I got you, KG5EIU. There's a station that doubled with David there at the end. Please try again.
Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
Okay. AA5AH, I got you, Robert. So I recognize the following stations from that round. KI5GRH, Melissa, NT5TM, Tony, AF5TX, BJ, KF5ZBL, Bill, KG5EIU, David, and AA5AH. Did I miss anybody, or do we have any other RF check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
Kilo Echo 5 Echo November, Eric, Plano.
Kilo 5, Alpha November Papa, Allen in Dallas.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in DeSoto. Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Quinlan.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Kilo Uniform, David, Mesquite.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite. Whiskey 7, Kilo Yankee Golf.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
Okay, let's pause there. That's a nice long list. I recognize KE5ICX, Tom, KE5EN, Eric, K5ANP, Alan, WB5OZL, Brenda, K5KTX, Kelly, KG5UKU, David, W5GUS, Gus, KF5GHA, Chaz, W7KYG, Calvin, and KG5WVL, James. Do we have any other RF check-ins for Skynet? This is N5BB, net controller.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
I recognize KG5APL, Patrick. Do we have any other RF check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet.
Kilo India 5, Juliet Uniform Papa, Brian, Dallas.
I recognize KI5JUP. Good evening, Brian. Thanks for checking in. Do we have any other RF check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power, long time.
This is November 5, Kilo Romeo Golf, Kevin, Farmers Branch.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, J, New Wizard.
Okay, on that round, I recognize WB4, MFI, hello, Ted, N5KRG, Kevin, and KG5BZWJ. Do we have any other RF check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB, net controller. Okay, now let's move over to Echolink. So N5KRG, I've already got. So I'm going to recognize KX7, WTF, Sean in Denton, irregular, and N5IMS, JJ in Carrollton, also irregular. And I've already got Chaz. I recognize KF5PDS, Billy. Sorry for the delay. I have to look and then write. I got J, KG5BZW. I got Kelly already. I recognize K5JDW, John. In Norman, Oklahoma tonight, he says. And then we have Shane, W0MBC. And Shane, is Bethany with you this evening?
Right here. We don't know Shane, only Bethany's dad. Hi, Dallas.
Hello, Bethany. We always like to have you and your dad here. And then I've already got W7KYG. So do any of the Echolink stations want to come in on voice? We already have Bethany. Anybody else want to come in on voice? Come now. This is N5BB, listening for Echolink stations. Nothing heard. Some laughing going on over on the text on Echolink. Do we have any other stations that would like to check into? Skynet. This is N5BB. Go ahead. I'd also like to recognize N5AJD, Aaron, and WD9GET. I see that Key WD9GET is down in Alvin, which is down near Houston. Aaron, N5AJD, let me see if you're on my list. I know I've heard you on before. Yes, you're in Dallas. Okay, very good. So do we have any other stations that would like to check into Skynet? Please come now. Okay, that's a pretty good list. So now next let's go with general announcements. Does anybody have any general announcements relating to amateur radio, astronomy, space, or anything of general interest to licensed hams? Please come now with your call sign only. This is N5BB, Skynet.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Go ahead, Tony.
Thank you, Bill. I would like to remind everyone that this is, of course, not the last night of the evening. We'll be discussing Space Battleship Yamato tonight at 10:30 p.m. right here on this repeater. This Sunday is a first Sunday, so we have a meeting on the air at 7 and a Racy's Training Net on this repeater at 8 p.m. And, of course, Monday is Ham Fixins Night. It's the first Monday. So what have you been cooking this weekend? Have you tried anything new? I haven't yet, but maybe I will by Monday. If you have, be ready to discuss it this Monday at 7 p.m. on Ham Fixins. And then we do have a new net coming up this Tuesday, that may be of interest to everyone on this net. I think it's at 8 p.m. on this repeater. Someone will hopefully correct me if I got that wrong. But it's going to be the East AMSAT net. This is for all of those like me who've had trouble participating in the Arlington AMSAT net. Well, it will be over here in the eastern part of the Metroplex at Tuesdays, whenever there's no DARC club meeting at 8 p.m. So I hope to hear you here for all the nets and see you and hear you all around town. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. That last item is in the script, so I'll be going over it again quickly. Do we have any other news items? Amateur radio or astronomy? any other news items, please come now. This is Skynet, N5BB Net Control, or late check-ins.
KE5ICX.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I've got a relay for you. Darwin, Kilo Echo 5, Romeo Foxtrot Zulu, and Garland is checking in. He's an amateur radio operator over on Facebook tonight, just not on the radio. KE5ICX.
Okay, I recognize KE5RFZ on Facebook. Hold one. Someone was asking how many check-ins we were getting to. So far we have 32. Darwin is number 32. So it got a little bit to get to 42. Chaz. Or even 39, which you got last week. So, next. Again, one quick ask one more time. My tongue is twisted. Do we have any other announcements or late check-ins before we continue? This is N5BB, Skynet. Okay. AMSAT has multiple nets available. So there is a Tuesday evening net. It's 8 p.m. Central over on Echolink. The net originates in Houston. So under Echolink, under groups and asterisk, AMSAT asterisk, you can look for that. You can also look at www.amsatnet.com. Again, that's Tuesdays at 8. Also on Tuesdays at 8, as Tony said, we have the Dallas AMSAT Net East session, which is every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. on this repeater, except on the first Tuesday of the month. So it's every Tuesday except for the first Tuesday because the club meeting's on the first Tuesday. Tom, N5HIP, is nominally the net control. Anybody is welcome to check in. You do not need to be an AMSAT official member to participate. And then there's another session of the net every Wednesday evening at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz. Both this repeater and the Arlington repeater have a PL tone of 110.9. So to repeat, on this repeater, every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m., except for the first Tuesday, or on Wednesday evening at 9 p.m. on the Arlington 147.14 megahertz repeater, we have the radio amateur satellite group. So, DARC nets, of course, we have ham fixings net on the first Monday, as Tony mentioned. And then we have MCOM 101 ham fixing nets and GeekNet on the later weeks of the month. Out on Saturday nights, we have TechNet at 7 p.m. and Skynet at 9 p.m. and the Afterglow starting at 10:30. Tom, do you want to present the description of the fine movie tonight, which is dubbed from Japanese? It's English dubbed on a Japanese movie. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Bill. This is KE5ICX, and this was suggested by NG5Y. That's Alan. No, Brenda did not pick this fine film. It was actually someone else, so it might be good. So here it is. Tonight's Afterglow info. Godzilla looked at the script and promptly incinerated with his fire-breathing breath the writer picked up what was left of his script and shuffled out the door. The freight train siren sound of Godzilla's dissatisfaction echoed down the halls of TBS, the Japanese version of the Hallmark Channel. "You're next, Mr. Yamazuki," said the receptionist. Yamazuki clutched the script in his hands tightly. He approached the famous actor, now producer, and pitched the story about a resurrected battleship which takes on invaders, not from Venus or Mars like the last 2 weeks, but outer space, and how the entire world was in tatters after years of fighting humans struggling to free their invaded world using a giant battleship from World War II. It had its intended effects. Godzilla was crying, whimpering in the corner. Yamazuki knew he had his financial backing for his space epic. That's tonight, the Afterglow movie, Space Battleship Yamato, the live-action version from 2010. There's like a zillion million years of anime, but this is the live-action one. 10:30 p.m. Be there or be square. Back to net control, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. I'll warn you, if you haven't seen it, again, it's a Japanese movie with English dubbed in, voice dubbed. So it's not subtitled, it's voice dubbed in. And it's the real thing. In other words, the big commander is wearing white gloves. You can tell it's serious when the big guy's got the white gloves on. So it's all about honor and love and all that kind of stuff. Standard Japanese movie fare for a war movie. Okay, so I'd also like to remind everybody that at 6:30 p.m. every evening, we have the traffic net, the DFW traffic net on this repeater. And then at 10:30 every evening, the late session of that traffic net is on the Irving repeater, 146.72 megahertz. So, what's the bottom line? There's lots of things to do here in Dallas involving amateur radio on nets. I hope we've hooked you into several of these. So next, do we have any additional check-ins before we continue with Chaz? This is N5BB, Skynet. Any additional check-ins?
This is M5JYQ listening in from San Antonio via Echolink via the iPhone. M5JYQ, clear.
Very good. Well, I saw Joe, but now he disappeared. So I think when he stopped transmitting, there we go, he's back in there again. You got it going again, Joe. Glad to hear you from San Antonio there, Joe. Also, there's some news here. Kelly, do you want to come on voice, on Echolink, and tell us about Joe Lalumina, our buddy? Go ahead there, Kelly, N5BB.
Thanks, Bill. This is K5KTX. So many of you know Joe Lalumia. He in the past, has been very active in ham radio, especially with the Rockwall and the Savara Club, but he's also been part of the Dallas Club. And of course this net right here, Skynet, and he is currently in the hospital. He had gone in to have a heart procedure done, but then he tested positive for COVID, so they sent him back home. Well, now he's back in the hospital again, trying to recover from COVID, and once he recovers, then he will have this procedure, and apparently he will be in the hospital for quite some time in recovery of that. So anyway, if you're friends with him on Facebook, you might want to, he's on there all the time, even though he's in the hospital. So if you're friends with him, you might go over there and just say hello. And anyway, so that's all I have. This is K5KTX.
Okay, very good, Kelly. Yeah, she's talking about Joe and Quinlan, W1XWX. And Joe used to check into their nets all the time, but I hadn't heard him in quite a while. So I'm glad to hear that he's still around, but inactive, but just has a few medical problems there, Kelly. Thank you very much, Kelly, for the information about Joe. We really appreciate it. And, and you say you moved to Rockwall. Okay, very good. I'll update my records then. Joe is now in Rockwall. So, do we have any other news items or any other late check-ins before we continue with Chaz? This is N5BB, Skynet. Okay, Chaz, you're on. This is N5BB. Go ahead, Chaz.
Bill, you had a double. Why don't you call on that person that was doubling with you?
Who was doubling with me? This is N5BB.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington. I was checking in.
Okay, Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf. Your name again in Arlington? Oh, I see you here. It's Joe. So I recognize on Echolink KG5ZMG. It's Joe in Arlington. We got you, Joe. Do we have any other late check-ins? I see K5SHR, Steve. Steve, where are you located? He already dropped out. So he may have just been popping in there. I won't log him. Okay, so any other late check-ins before we move on with Chaz? This is N5BB with Skynet. It's your net, Chaz, KF5GHA. This is N5BB. Go on with the TAS events.
Thank you so much, Bill. Good evening, everyone. Hey, Bill, make sure you sign in. If you haven't signed in, JJ, make sure you sign him in. We want to get up to that 42 number tonight. Okay, the next meeting of the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas will be on September the 25th at 7:30 p.m. It'll be another virtual club meeting using Zoom. We won't have a speaker this meeting. Instead, we're going to have our annual swap meet. Now, TAS usually has a swap meet once a year, but as far as I know, we've never done this virtually. The swap meet is when members bring to the meeting their unwanted and gently used equipment and sell it. Sometimes it's not so gently used. The TAS Club members will receive an email to the link to the meeting on Zoom. So you should receive that email about a week ahead of time. Hopefully TAS will resume having face-to-face meetings and maybe public observing sessions after all this shelter-in-place is over. If you want to find out details about what I'm talking about, go to texasastro.org for details. Okay, back to you, Bill. KF5JHA.
Thank you very much there, Chaz. Does anyone have any comments or questions about the Texas Astronomical Society? If so, please come down. Nothing heard? Okay, next I'm on. The National Space Society has a local chapter, National Space Society of North Texas. I happen to be the membership director of the local chapter. If you have interest in joining the National Space Society or our local chapter, you can send email to me, n5bb@arrl.net. It's November 5 Bravo Bravo at arrl.net. We normally meet on the second Sunday of every month, but we can't do that now because of COVID. So we meet online on WebEx. And our last meeting was back on August the 9th. So it's been a while. Our next meeting is going to be on lucky September the 13th. That's Sunday, September the 13th at 4 p.m. on WebEx. If you would like to visit our WebEx meeting, just send me an email, n5bb@arl.net, and I'll send you a WebEx invite. We have no local events going on right now because of everything kind of being closed down. The National Space Society, the national group, though, has had web-based events most Thursday evenings. And there's been some interesting speakers. So there's a lot going on with National Space Society, but it's all virtual. We have a new portal that you can get in and send messages to other people and other kinds of things. So there's a lot going on, but none of it's in person because of all the COVID-19 restrictions. But fortunately, a lot of the web-based things were being put into place early this year, right before the COVID hit. So that's good. Before I continue, does anybody have any questions about National Space Society or any late check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet. Okay. Next, you have me up again. This is a discussion topic for the evening, which is the LIGO Virgo spots its most massive black hole merger so far. So, LIGO is the U.S.-based gravitational wave astronomy observatory, which is located in Livingston, Louisiana, and somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. I'm temporarily forgetting. And Virgo is the European one, and I can't currently remember the exact locations. And there's another one that they're working on in Japan, improving its sensitivity. I believe it's Japan, somewhere over in the Far East, and it's not really up to snuff yet. But the current ones that are active, the LIGO and the Virgo observatories, these are gravitational wave observatories. In May of 2019, there was an event that they spotted, and there's a huge amount of processing it takes before they can tell everybody what it really was, and that's just been announced, the results of all their investigations. So, this is a merger of the two most massive, it's the most massive merger of two black holes ever seen and detected by the Gravitational Wave Observatory. So it's dubbed GW190521. Again, it was captured on May 2019 when the gravitational waves arrived at Earth, and involves the creation of a black hole with a mass of about 142 suns. So what happens is there were two original black holes that are thought to have weighed 85 solar masses and 66 solar masses. So you add together 85 and 66, and you get to what? 151. However, the new item that was created is only 142 suns. So that means that, if I do my math correctly in my head, 9 suns worth of mass energy was converted to black gravitational waves. This is a huge amount. So the heavier object, 88 solar masses, is an object which is in a gap. They call it the pair instability mass. And scientists do not currently believe that black holes in that range of masses, around 85 solar masses, can form from collapsing stars. So they're very excited about this because they're going to find information about one of these special black holes that's in this special range of masses. So the two black holes orbited to each other, getting closer and closer until they merged. In the last moments of this in-spiral, they sent out gravitational waves that were observed by these detectors in Earth. These are 3 huge interferometers. So there's 2 in the U.S. and Virgo is in Italy. And because we now have 3 of them active, they can locate the direction much, much better. So we have essentially triangulation. So this is N5BB and Skynet. Physicists working on this project have calculated that the merger took place 17 billion light years from Earth, when the universe was half its age as it is today. So this is one of the most distant mergers seen by our gravitational wave observatories to date. Detecting the gravitational waves at such a great distance is possible because the huge amount of energy they carried away. The calculation here is equivalent of 8 suns. So imagine 8 times our sun. That amount of mass energy was converted to gravitational waves. That's a huge amount. This object is of particular interest to black hole experts because of the large masses of the objects, the 2 original ones and the final one. So stellar mass black holes are created when a large star collapses under its own gravity, creating a big supernova explosion that leaves behind a black hole. And astrophysicists believe that stars up to 130 solar masses will collapse in this way to create a black hole. But the maximum, when they create the supernova, a lot of the energy gets sent away in supernova fragments. So they believe that the largest black hole you can create via a star collapsing is about 65 solar masses. And that star is up to about 130 solar masses. If there's stars that are heavier than 200 solar masses, it's believed they'll collapse to create black holes of greater than 120 solar masses. But there's a range where they can't be created that way by current theory. These are stars in the range of 130 to 200 solar masses. This is N5BB with Skynet. What's thought is that how the energetic photons within the star are converted into electron-positron pairs, which generate less outward pressure than photons. This pair instability causes a rapid gravitational collapse of the star and an extremely violent explosion that leaves no black hole behind. As a result, astrophysicists believe there should be a gap in the mass spectrum of black holes, ranging from about 65 to 120 solar masses. It looks like one, or maybe even both. Remember I told you that the 2 masses were about 85 and 66 solar masses? So they're just they're both kind of in the range that we're talking about. So they believe that one or both of these lies in this gap, meaning there has to be some speculation on their origin. So one possibility is these black holes may have themselves been formed with black hole mergers. So it's possible that two black holes merge to create the first object, two other black holes merge to create the second object, and then they merge to create this new object. These are not probably at the same time, but at totally different times. So although a black hole merger is the most likely source, the way in which the event was detected opens the door to other intriguing possibilities. So the Gravitational Wave Observatory looks for gravitational waves in two different ways. One method involves looking for signals that resemble the gravitational waves that astrophysicists expect to be given off by merging black holes or neutron stars. Another way involves looking for anything out of the ordinary, the burst search. This is N5BB with Skynet. In the case of this object, a burst search was slightly better at identifying the signal, which opens the enticing possibility that the source of the signal is not a distant black hole merger, but rather the collapse of a star in the Milky Way. Another possibility says that the signal is created by a cosmic string that was produced just after the inflationary epoch of the early universe. So, again, the simplest way of thinking about it is two black holes merged, but it might actually be some other objects. They're not really sure yet. Earlier this year, an international team of astronomers suggested that this event may have been accompanied by a flare of light from a distant quasar, making it the first gravitational wave signal from merging black holes to have an electromagnetic counterpart. However, more recent work suggests the quasar is not in the same part of the sky as this new object. Okay, that's all I've got. Does anybody have any comments or questions about the new gravitational wave observatory discovery of this massive black hole merger? Please come now. This is N5BB with Skynet. John K5GDW is asking a question over on Echolink. So John asked, could those several black hole mergers, the progressions, suggest the universe might be older than suspected? No, I think it has nothing to do with that, John. It's thought. If this merger is where they think it is, it occurred about when the universe was about half the age it is today. So it's not back at the very early universe. So this doesn't push the age of the universe back any. It has nothing to do with that. Okay, do we have any other? And there have been several, yes, but again, I don't see anything that thinks that this has anything that will affect the age of the universe. That's known from some independent things. So, any other comments or questions about this topic? This is N5BB, Skynet. One other super quick topic I'd like to point out is that some recent study of data from the Cassini mission, which visited Saturn, indicates that the largest moon of Saturn, Titan, its orbit appears to be losing energy, so it's moving away from Titan something like 11 centimeters per year. This doesn't seem like very much, but it's actually a huge amount. It was thought that there weren't very many gravitational tides set up by Titan with Saturn, but this new research indicates that between 100 and 1,000 times the energy loss due to tides may be happening. So this is causing a lot of interest in what's going on with the Saturn interactions with Titan. So again, we have theories of a lot of things, but observations quite often indicate that something's wrong with the theories. Okay, one more try for late check-ins, and then we're going to go to what's up. So one more time for late check-ins. This is N5BB, Skynet. Any late check-ins? Come now. I will go ahead and check in Michael, WT9V, on Echolink. Hi, Michael. Okay, next is time for Chaz, KF5GHA with what up? Go ahead, Chaz. This is N5BB, Skynet.
Thank you, Bill. I'm laughing at Echolink stuff. You know what goes on over in Echolink has nothing to do sometimes with what's on the air. Okay, once again, this is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree's in astrophysics, and I'm the astrophysics lab manager for Dallas College on Brookhaven campus. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up. The moon was at its first quarter phase on August the 25th. Oh, but the moon was also full on September the 1st. That was just a few days ago. So the current phase of the moon is actually a waning gibbous. And the moon will be at third quarter on September the 10th. So did any of you see on Tuesday, September the 1st, the full moon? Let's talk about full moons. Every 29 and a half days we'll have a full moon. In other words, once a month. We should really call it a moonth. So we have a full moon about once every month. On average, about 2.5 years, we'll have actually two full moons in the same calendar month. We call the second full moon in a month a blue moon. On October the 31st of this year, we'll have a second full moon of the month of October. So October 31st full moon is a blue moon. Some people like to call the fourth full moon and a quarter a blue moon, but I don't go along with that. If that's the case, December 29th would be a full moon, would be a blue moon, but I don't agree with that. But let's get back to regular once-a-month full moons. Each month's full moon has a traditional name. In January, it is a wolf moon. February is a snow moon. March is a worm moon. Worms, worms crawling around. April is a pink moon. Have you seen those pink flowers along the side of the road? In April, that's why it's called that. May is a flower moon. This reminds me, since April showers bring May flowers, what do May flowers bring? I'm not unkeying the mic. I don't want an answer. Oh, pilgrims, of course. May flowers bring pilgrims. Okay, let's continue on. June is the strawberry moon. July is the buck moon. August is the sturgeon moon. September is the full corn or harvest moon. That's what we just had just a few days ago. October is the hunter's moon or the harvest moon. November is the beaver moon, and December is the cold moon. There are other nicknames for each of these moons. For example, January, besides wolf moon, it can also be called after Yule moon, old moon, ice moon, and snow moon. The March full moon is not only known as the worm moon, but also the crow moon, the sap moon, the sugar moon, chase moon, and lenten moon. The harvest moon is the full moon closest to the fall equinox. So usually it falls in September. So that September full moon is called a harvest moon. But about 1/3 of the years, the harvest moon falls in October. The harvest moon is the only full moon name that depends on something other than the month that full moon is in. For more information, you can go to timeanddate.com for details on full moon names. And this is KF5JHA. Tonight, just as Skynet is ending around 10:30 on September the 5th, look toward the east to find the moon and Mars in conjunction. Remember, the Earth and Mars are getting closer and closer together, and that is why humans have been launching spacecraft toward Mars here recently. On October the 6th is the date when the Earth and Mars will be at their closest that they've been in over 2 years. I've forgotten to tell the slide master what slide we're on. We're on slide number 5. On September the 11th, Neptune is at opposition. The blue giant planet is at its closest approach to the Earth on that day, and its face will be fully illuminated by the sun. It will be brighter than any other time of the year. It will be visible all night long. This is the best time to view and photograph Neptune, but due to its extreme distance from the Earth, it will only appear as a tiny blue dot in all but the most powerful telescopes. I have seen it a couple of times, but it's more difficult to see than Uranus. Slide number 6, around 5:30 a.m. Look toward the east on September the 14th to find Moon and Venus in the same location. Venus should be remain bright enough to see during the daytime sky. So after sunrise on September the 14th, yes, during the daytime, use the thin crescent moon as a guide to find Venus just to the south of the moon. Slide number 7. In the evening sky, as twilight fades on September 18th, look for the thin crescent moon. To the lower left of the moon, you may spot the planet Mercury, and to the upper left of Mercury, you might find the star Spica. So the thin crescent moon, Mercury, and Spica all in the evening sky. That's just in a couple of weeks. Slide number 8. Also on September 22nd, that is the equinox. That's the autumnal equinox. September equinox, or autumnal equinox, occurs at, 13:21 UT time. But that's for us, let's see now. Okay, I didn't put down the date for time for us. Just subtract 5 hours for us. The sun will shine directly in the equator, and there will be nearly equal amounts of day and night throughout the entire world. This is the first day of fall, the autumnal equinox, in the northern hemisphere, and the first day of spring in the southern hemisphere, the vernal equinox for them. And on this day, on September 22nd, is when the sun rises directly east and sets directly west everywhere on the Earth. Also on September 22nd, this is slide number 9, in the evening sky, just as twilight is fading around 7:45 p.m., look in the southwest sky for Mercury and Spica. Mercury and Spica will be very close at that point. Mercury will be higher and slightly left of Spica. Number 10 on the slide list, at 11:30 p.m. on September 24th, look in the southwestern sky for the moon to be just below the planet Jupiter. And off to the left of that, the fainter Saturn, you can find it just off to the left of the moon and Jupiter. Slide number 11, let's talk about the upcoming meteor showers in September. The Aurigates will peak on the night of August the 31st. Oh, it just happened. I forgot to take that one out of my slide deck. Okay, September 1st. You might still see a few of them, but you only would have been able to see a dozen of them per hour on their peak night. And upcoming in this week, on September 8th and 9th, that night, you'll see the peak of the Epsilon, what is it? Meteor shower. I've got it and not fully fleshed out there. I suggest camping at a state park to watch meteors, because it's a great place to go. Find out more information about meteors and meteor showers. Contact the website at the American Meteor Society of amsmeteors.org or the International Meteor Organization, IMO.net. Once again, a reminder for the Texas Astronomical Society information about their September 25th meeting at 7:30 and other things. Go to texasastro.org for details. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any information? Or you have just a general question on astronomy? I don't know everything, but I may know the answer to your question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question. Yes, with some training, Tom has learned how to pronounce the name of the star, Spike Up. Yes. So as the moon wanes at the first couple of weeks in September, right now it's waning, so do these words for the segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world, and until next time, keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA, back to net control.
Thank you, Chaz. This is N5BB. Let's move ahead. First, see if there's any more check-ins. Any more check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB. Go ahead. Was there a station trying to check in? Please try again. This is N5BB, Skynet. Okay, I believe it's Kelly this week for space exploration and space history. Kelly, is it your week? If so, please go ahead. K5KTX, this is N5BB with Skynet. Go ahead, Kelly.
Thank you, Bill. It is my week, but it was my birthday on Wednesday. All right, so Mars has long been known for its rust. Iron on its surface combined with water and oxygen from the ancient past give the red planet its hue. But scientists were recently surprised to find evidence that our airless moon has rust on it as well. A new paper in Science Advances reviews data from the Indian Space Research Organization's Chandrayaan-1 orbiter, which discovered water ice and mapped out a variety of minerals while surveying the moon's surface in 2008. Lead author Shua Lee of the University of Hawaii has studied that water extensively in data from Chandrayaan-1 Moon Meteorology Mapper Instrument, or M3, which was built by NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California. Water interacts with rock to produce a diversity of minerals, and M3 detected spectra, or light reflected off of surfaces that revealed the moon's poles had a very different composition than the rest of it. The mystery starts with the solar wind, a stream of charged particles that flows out from the sun, bombarding Earth and the moon with hydrogen. Hydrogen makes it harder for hematite to form. It's what is known as a reducer, meaning it adds electrons to the materials it interacts with. That's the opposite of what is needed to make hematite. For iron to rust, it requires an oxidizer, which removes electrons. And while the Earth has a magnetic field shielding it from this hydrogen, the moon does not. After taking a close look, scientists became convinced M3's data does indeed indicate the presence of hematite at the lunar poles. Their paper offers a three-pronged model to explain how rust might form in such an environment. For starters, while the moon lacks an atmosphere, it is in fact home to trace amounts of oxygen. The source of that oxygen? Our planet. Earth's magnetic field trails behind the planet like a windsock. In 2007, Japan's Kaguya orbiter discovered that oxygen from Earth's upper atmosphere can hitch a ride on this trailing magnetotail, as it's officially known, traveling the 39,000 miles to the moon. That discovery fits with this data from M3, which found more hematite on the moon's Earth-facing near side than on its far side. This suggested that Earth's oxygen could be driving the formation of hematite. The moon has been inching away from Earth for billions of years, so it's also possible that more oxygen hopped across this rift when the two were closer in the ancient past. Then there's the matter of all that hydrogen being delivered by the solar wind. As a reducer, hydrogen should prevent oxidation from occurring, but Earth's magnetotail has a mediating effect. Besides ferrying oxygen to the moon from our home planet, it also blocks over 99% of the solar wind during certain periods of the moon's orbit, specifically whenever it's in the full moon phase. That opens occasional windows during the lunar cycle when form. The third piece of the puzzle is water. While most of the moon is bone dry, water ice can be found in shadowed lunar craters on the moon's far side. But the hematite was detected far from that ice. The paper instead focuses on water molecules found in the lunar surface. Lee proposes that fast-moving dust particles that regularly pelt the moon could release these surface-borne water molecules, mixing them with iron in the lunar soil. Heat from these impacts could increase the oxidation rate. The dust particles themselves may also be carrying water molecules, implanting them into the surface so that they mix with iron. During just the right moments, namely when the moon is shielded from the solar wind and oxygen is present, a rust-inducing chemical reaction could occur. More data is needed to determine exactly how the water is interacting with rock. That data could also help explain why smaller quantities of hematite are also forming on the far side of the moon, where the Earth's oxygen shouldn't be able to reach it. This model may also explain hematite found on other airless bodies like asteroids. It could be that little bits of water and the impact of dust particles are allowing iron in these bodies to rust. Lee noted that it's an exciting time for lunar science. Almost 50 years since the last Apollo landing, the moon is a major destination again. NASA plans to send dozens of new instruments and technology experiments to study the moon beginning next year, followed by human missions beginning in 2024, all as part of the Artemis program. JPL is also building a new version of M3 for an orbiter called Lunar Trailblazer. One of its instruments, the High-Resolution Volatiles and Minerals Moon Mapper, HVM3, will be mapping water ice in permanently shadowed craters on the moon and may be able to reveal new details about hematite as well. So I think it's going to be interesting to follow this story as space agencies start sending future missions to the moon to test these hypotheses. Now in space history this week, beginning with August the 30th in 1983. Early in the morning, Space Shuttle Challenger launched on STS-8. It was the first night launch in the Space Shuttle program and the third launch for Shuttle Challenger. The crew was commanded by Dick Truly, who later served as NASA administrator, and piloted by Dan Brandenstein. Mission specialists on the crew were Dale Gardner, Guy Bluford, and Bill Thornton. Launching on STS-8, Bluford became the first African-American to fly in space. STS-8 also carried the first animals on a shuttle mission, rats, and when it landed on September 5th, 1983, the crew also made the first night landing by a space shuttle. And also on August the 30th, back in 2012, the Van Allen probes were launched from Cape Canaveral to begin their mission examining the Van Allen radiation belt. The twin spacecraft were placed in a highly elliptical orbit along the Earth's equator between 375 miles at perigee and 20,000 miles at apogee. This allowed them to examine the full range of the radiation belt's diversity as they chased each other around the Earth. The probes have proven instrumental in furthering our understanding of the solar and cosmic radiations that bombard and surround the planet. They have forced scientists to reconsider the composition, behavior, and even location of the Earth's radiation belt. This in turn allows for better prediction of geomagnetic storms. The Van Allen mission was extended beyond the original 2-year mission. However, spacecraft B ran out of fuel and was shut down on July 19th of last year. Spacecraft A was deactivated on October 18th, 2019. On September the 1st, 1979, a human-made probe flew by Saturn for the first time. Pioneer 11 and predecessor Pioneer 10 were the first craft to explore the outer solar system. After Pioneer 10's successful flyby of Jupiter, Pioneer 11's path was adjusted so that its path by Jupiter would send it on to Saturn. The team at NASA Ames Research Center originally planned to fly Pioneer 11 through Saturn's inner rings. However, with the twin Voyager spacecraft not far behind, it was decided that Pioneer 11 should be the trailblazer for their path through the outer ring system of Saturn. So Pioneer 11 only came within 21,000 kilometers of Saturn's upper atmosphere on September 1st, 1979. During the flyby, Pioneer 11 revealed a new ring, the F ring, discovered 2 new moons, charted the Saturn magnetic field, and mapped the general structure of the interior of the giant planet. Heading out of the solar system after the Saturn flyby, Pioneer 11 remained in contact until September 1995. It now continues a silent journey toward interstellar space. And finally, on this date, September 5th, 1977, Voyager 1 launched from the Kennedy Space Center on board a Titan Centaur rocket 16 days after the launch of Voyager 2. Between them, Voyager 1 and 2 explored Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, 48 of their moons, and the unique system of rings and magnetic fields those planets possess, making many important discoveries along the way. As of 2012, Voyager 1 was the first human-made object to venture into interstellar space. So, why did Voyager 2 launch before Voyager 1? Because Voyager 1 was on a faster trajectory and it seemed less confusing to have the numbers out of order for the launch than for the flybys in the outer solar system. And that's all I've got. This is K5KTX.
Very good, Kelly. This is N5BB with Skynet. Do we have any questions for Kelly or any late check-ins? Please go now.
November 5, Lima, X-Ray, India, Joel and Lake Highlands. I've been listening, but just checked in.
N5LXI, we've got you, Joel. 3, 4, 5, 6. That makes 36 check-ins so far. Very good. Okay, so let's move now back to Chaz. He doesn't get off that easy, but at least we split it up so he doesn't have to talk for 15 minutes continuously. Chaz, how about Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week? KF5GHA, this is N5BB, Skynet. Go ahead.
Thank you again, Bill. Yes, this is Chaz, KF5JHA. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of a silent key, Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 constellations out of the 88 that are easily seen in Texas throughout the year, Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky in a year. In her honor, we have continued that tradition of constellation per week. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Aquila, the eagle. The constellation name means eagle in Latin. The constellation represents the eagle of the Roman god Jupiter in mythology. It was first cataloged by the Greek astronomer Ptolemy in the 2nd century. In Greek mythology, Aquila is identified as the eagle that carried Zeus's thunderbolts, too. And it was also a disguise that he may have used, too, in one of the myths. and was once dispatched by the god to carry Ganymede, too, a young Trojan boy that Zeus desired, to Olympus to be the cupbearer of the gods. Ganymede is represented by the neighboring constellation of Aquarius, but it's also a name of a moon of Jupiter, isn't it? Altair. Oh, we're on slide number 16, Mr. Slide Decker. That would be Tom. Thank you. Altair, or Alpha Aquilae, is the brightest star in Aquila and the 12th brightest star in the sky. Altair is one of the 3 stars that make up the Summer Triangle, and the second brightest member of the 3 in the Summer Triangle. The name Altair is derived from the Arabic words that mean flying eagle. Altair is a type A star. It's located only 17 light years from the Earth. It's one of the few stars that's been directly imaged, and a copy of this image can be found on page 7, volume 2 of the Annals of Deep Sky by Jeff Knipe and Dennis Webb. It may also be found in Wikipedia entry for Altair. So, yeah, don't go to your computers right now. You can do that later. Altair is also noted for its extreme fast rotation, about 6.5 hours. What? For a star to rotate that fast? That translates to a rotational speed of about 160 miles per second at the equator. Our equator of the Earth rotates at about 1,000 miles per hour, not miles per second. Oh. The rapid rotation rate makes this star oblate, or an ellipsoidal in shape. Its equatorial diameter is about 4 solar radii, while its polar diameter is about 3.3 solar radii. Okay, let's go on to a different star. We're still on the same slide. Terazed is the second brightest star in Aquila. Its name is derived from a Persian name, which means the beam of the scale. Must have been a scale in that part of the sky at one point. It is a spectral class K32, which is a bright giant star. Its apparent magnitude is 2.72 and approximately 461 light years in distance. Terazed is 2,960 times more luminous than our sun. You think you know what the PSF rating on your sun screen would need to be on a planet orbiting that? It has a radius of 110 solar radii, taking up about half an AU. Wow. It is a known source of X-rays, and it's only about 100 million years old, we think, yet it's already burning helium into carbon into its core. That would be, of course, you're burning hydrogen into helium at first, and then helium into carbon in its core is the second step in a star's evolution, and it's downhill from there. So it's going to be a short-lived star. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. There are no M objects, Messier objects, in the constellation, but let's talk about some other things. NGC, that means New General Catalog, 6760 is a globular cluster. David Hutchinson notes in his that this globular cluster is pretty easy to locate and observe, and he found numerous reports of people locating this cluster using binoculars. Using his 13-inch Newtonian, he describes NGC 6760 as a very nice cluster that is very symmetrical with a pretty dense core. He adds that he didn't think he resolved it completely with that 13-inch telescope. We are now on slide number 18. NGC 6781 is a planetary nebula known as the Snow Globe Nebula. Wow. I wonder if you can put that on your desk. David Hutchinson, and he's the writer that does the Constellation of the Month in the Spectrum newsletter, which is the Texas Astronomical Society's newsletter. So David Hutchinson describes NGC 6781 as a sort of a cross between M57, the Ring Nebula, and M97, which is the Owl Nebula. Like the Ring Nebula, this object is a well-defined ring, but unlike the Ring Nebula and more like the Owl Nebula, this object's interior is well illuminated as well. He mentioned it is like a nice object for an 8-inch telescope and above. The challenges for those with larger telescopes is to try to observe the nebula's central star, which shines at 16th magnitude. We're up to slide number 19. NGC 6751 is a planetary nebula known as the Dandelion Puffball, or the Glowing Eye Nebula. Once again, Dave Hutchinson notes that NGC 6751 was difficult to see in his 13-inch telescope, because it's kind of faint and small, and it's almost lost on a crowded Milky Way star field. George Keppel and Glenn Sander note that NGC 6751 can be seen in an 8 or a 10-inch scope, and even the central star is visible but very faint. It could be noted that Mr. Keppel and Mr. Sander do vast majority of their observing in private observatories under clear, dark skies in Arizona, which no doubt greatly assists them in seeing faint objects. Slide number 20, NGC 6778 is a planetary nebula sometimes known as the son of M76. You'll have to look up what M76 is. Dave Hutchinson writes that NGC 6778 was even more difficult to find than NGC 6751, which I just mentioned just a moment ago. In his 13-inch telescope, he suggests using a medium power to find it. Then you'll notice it easily is an irregular yet round, sort of fuzzy star, and not a pinpoint star. Once again, George Keppel and Glenn Sander described NGC 6778 in an 8-inch to 10-inch telescope at 200 power as appearing considerably faint and small and indistinctly round. They say that the central star is visible in a 12 to 14-inch telescope, but only with averted vision. And I am KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. There are more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Aquila the Eagle. I've just told you a few of the samplings of those objects. The Astronomical League has over 60 different observing programs. All of the programs, well, most of them, have about 100 objects. If you observe 10 different objects in one observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin within a year. And slide number 22, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Aquila the Eagle. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson, which I've mentioned several times, and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on the deep sky objects that I've used here tonight. I've also used the website constellation-guide.com for information. It's a great place to get detailed information about constellations. Next week, it's a 2-for-1 special, so get out your wallets. We'll take a look at Vulpecula, the Fox, and Sagitta or Sagitta, the Arrow, next week. And this is KF5JHA, back to net control.
Thank you, Chaz. Does anybody have any comments or questions for Chaz or any late check-ins? This is Skynet in 5BB net control. We currently have 36 check-ins. Not a record. Okay, now let's go with Tom, KE5ICX, with space launches for the week. Go ahead, Tom. It's your turn. This is in 5BB, Skynet net control.
All right, thank you, Bill. This is KE5ICX. I'm only going to give two tonight simply because we're running a little behind, but one of them is really super interesting, has yet to be determined. Delta 4 Heavy, NROL-44. It'll launch from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, SLC-37B launch pad. A United Launch Alliance Delta 4 Heavy rocket will launch a classified spy satellite for the U.S. National Reconnaissance Office, the largest of the Delta 4 family. The Heavy version features 3 common booster cores mounted together to form a triple-body rocket. This should be pretty cool. So check it out. Even though these are classified missions, they do show the launches, and they're pretty spectacular. Then I'll give you overnight, September 10th and 11th, Rocket 3.1 test flight. This will launch out of the Kodiak Island, Alaska, the Pacific Spaceport. Commercial small satellite launch vehicle developed by Astra will make its first orbital launch attempt. Astra says there will be no payloads on this test flight. Scrubbed from August 2nd due to an upper-level winds and a boat in range. Boat in range, yes. Well, it's Kodiak, Alaska. What do you... All right, back to you, Bill. KE5I6.
Well, very good, Tom. That was quick. Brenda, it's your turn now. Recent astronomical deliveries. By Brenda, WB5OZL. This is N5BB and Skynet. Take it away, Brenda.
This is WB5OZL. May not have time to read the whole thing. We'll get started on it. The article is entitled Peculiar Planetary System Architecture Around 3 Stars Explained. In our solar system, the 8 planets and many other minor objects orbit in a flat plane around the sun, but in some distant systems, planets orbit on an incline, sometimes a very steep one. New work would explain the architecture of multi-star systems in which planets are separated by wide gaps and do not orbit on the same plane as their host star's equatorial center. The discovery that our galaxy is teeming with exoplanets has also revealed the vast diversity of planetary systems out there and raised questions about the processes that shape them. New work published in Science by an international team including Carnegie's Jahan Bey could explain the architecture of multi-star systems in which planets are separated by wide gaps and do not orbit on the same plane as their host star's equatorial center. In our solar system, the 8 planets and many other minor objects orbit in a flat plane around the sun, but in some distant systems, planets orbit on an incline. Stars are born in nurseries of gas and dust called molecular clouds, often forming in small groups of 2 or 3. These young stars are surrounded by rotating disks of leftover material, which accretes to form baby planets. The disk's structure will determine the distribution of the planets that form from it, but much about this process remains unknown. Over the past 11 years, let me back up. Led by University of Exeter's Stefan Kraus, the team found the first direct evidence confirming the theoretical prediction that gravitational interactions between the members of multi-star systems can warp, or break their disks, resulting in misaligned rings surrounding the stellar hosts. Over a period of 11 years, researchers made observations of one of the GW Orionis triple star system, located just over 1,300 light years away in the Orion constellation. Their work was accomplished using the European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope and the Atacama Large Millimeter Submillimeter Array, a radio telescope made up of 66 antennas. Our images reveal an extreme case where the disk is not flat at all, but is warped and has a misaligned ring that is broken away from the disk. Their findings were tested by simulations that demonstrated that the observed disorder in the orbits of the 3 stars could have caused the disk to fracture into the distinct rings. We predict that many planets on oblique wide separation orbits will be discovered in future planet imaging campaigns, said co-author Alexander Kreplin, also of the University of Exeter. Bey concluded, this system is a great example of how theory and observing can inform each other. I'm excited to see what we learn about this system and others like it with additional study. Oh, well, actually, I finished the article. So back to that, WB5OZL.
Well, very good, Brenda. Are there any questions or late check-ins? Okay. Passes of the ISS. It looks to me like the only visible passes come up.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow movie net. Wednesday. And if I'm reading this right, these are all passes in the morning. 6:23, 5:36, 6:24, 5:37, 4:52, etc. Until you get to the 14th, which is a Monday of September, when we have a pass in the evening at, 10:41. That's only a 10 degree to the south, barely peeking up. So most of these passes are only 10 to 12 degrees. So it looks like there's no really good passes until you get to the 14th of September, Monday. And if you get up in the morning at 5:41, you're going to see a 78-degree pass of the ISS to the west-southwest. Okay, it's 10:30. Any last-minute comments before we close the net? Any last-minute check-ins? This is N5BB and Skynet. Tonight we had 36 hams participating on the air, on Echolink, and one via Facebook. Thanks to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. That's the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. If you'd like to try your hand at a net, contact any net control, such as me, or send an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter if you're so inclined, as well as their audio and visual streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net, and not a second before. Until next Saturday night, this is N5BB, Bill, and I'll be closing a net at 10:31 p.m. local time. Returning the repeater to abnormal amateur use because we have afterglow coming up. 73s, everybody. Enjoy the evening. N5BB clear.
And this is N5HYP testing.
What are you testing, Tom?
You. See you at afterglow.
All right, we'll be back for Afterglow. Space Battleship Yamato from 2010. Yes, the live-action version, not the anime. Until last night, I hadn't even seen the live-action version, so it'll be really cool. World War II battleships in space. Come back in 5 minutes. We'll be fighting on chat to figure out whose net control will be. See you in 5. This is KE5ICX.
I vote for Brenda, WT9B.
I thought that maybe Tom was checking because he was going to be net control. That's Tom Schessler in 5BB.
You don't get a vote, Michael, WB50ZL.
I think other Tom, Tom S., I think he'd be an excellent net control. I vote for that, too. Him and Brenda both. They can fight over it. Brenda's very feisty tonight. WT9V.
Brenda, don't let Michael get under your skin.
Yeah, he does that. WB50ZL.
He's like an insect that bites you, And the gift keeps on giving for a long time. Don't scratch it or it'll even get worse. In 5BB.
It's like bug bites on my poison ivy.
Oh, yeah. Right next to a joint, which has got arthritis. The combination of all three in 5BB.
You forgot to mention the gout pains. 1790.
I don't have gout, and I don't have arthritis.
I think that you missed the point there. Bill was implying that, dealing with me was painful, and gout is, never mind. Look it up. WT9V.
Yep, the crystals in the joints.
All right, who's wearing the white gloves for this thing?
The commander. You know it's a serious Japanese movie when they've got the white gloves on.
When I was young, I had what they call 16-button gloves. White gloves that go up above the elbow.
I said something that triggered my smart speaker to start playing a song I'd played before that was very heavy metal. And I just barely lit up with the microphone button before it blared out on the radio.
Lawrence Welk is not heavy metal.
Nope, it was Hag by the Breeders.
I think Michael should wear the white gloves tonight. KE5ICX.
Negative. You are the captain, sir. You wear the white gloves. You may tell other people what to do, but you're the one with white gloves.
I really do recommend getting your smart speaker to play Hag by the Breeders. It puts you in the mood to make it through this movie that we're talking about tonight. N5BB.
You said you didn't watch it. How do you know what it was?
I sampled it. I watched the first portion and then decided it wasn't worth going through the whole darn 2 hours and 18 minutes or whatever, frame by frame. N5BB.
That explains a lot. WT9V.
It's self-control, Michael. If there's a train wreck going on, it's not necessary to watch the whole thing. If it continues on for over 2 hours, you might as well just do something else. N5BB, back to the upcoming net.
Well, it looks like it just might be time for Brenda to start the net.
Or it might be time for Michael to start the net.
Well, fine. If you don't want to start the net, maybe Tom will start the net. I mean, like telling me to start talking.
I do have white gloves, but they're out in the car.
See, I knew it. All right, fine. I mean, I did say I would do it. This is a wonderful, wonderful show. Made even more obvious by the fact that Bill didn't like it. I'll say that much. So, let me see. This is where I normally would bring up the file that I wrote about things, so that I would have something to do, something to say, but I didn't. I decided I wasn't gonna. It's been very nearly a year since I started this, and I've done it a couple of times, and one would hope that I ought to be able to come up with something entertaining to say off the top of my head and fake it. But if I, start faltering too much, I'll let Tom figure it out. Or maybe he won't. I don't know. Yeah, who knows? Tom is unpredictable. But I blame Brenda because, she's the one that, says it's my turn, whether I believe it or not. No, wait, I think I volunteered. Anyway, so tonight, we are talking about the landmark 1974 wait. Okay, so it's a 1974 animated series, Space Battleship Yamato. Finally gets a live-action treatment from director Takashi Yamazaki in the year 2199. The Earth has become a waste. This isn't written. It's punctuation. People need punctuation on what I'm reading. In the year 2199, Earth has become a wasteland after 5 years of radiation attacks from an unseen alien enemy called the Gamelons. One of the survivors is Kodai Susumu. Never mind. Who picks up a mysterious device one day while hunting for scrap metal. That's what he was doing. After discovering a map to a planet inside the device, the military sends out its last battleship, the Yamato, in the hopes that it'll be the key to save humanity. Kodai joins the Yamato crew and quickly proves to be a worthy team member. With only a year left before the end of the Earth, what will the Yamato crew find at the end of their long and perilous journey? One of the highest-grossing Japanese films of all time, Space Battleship Yamato is a sci-fi spectacular for audiences of all ages. It says it was 137 minutes, which, that works, yep. Japan 2010, blah, 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 stuff, whatever. And now I've kind of forgotten what I was going to say, and thinking about it in the middle of that, because, well, as Brenda says, we're all elderly. Some of us are more elderly than others. The thing that I noticed while I was trying to find something about this movie to read is that there is a tremendous amount of stuff. This is kind of like Japanese Star Trek. If you go and look on fandom, YamatoFandom.com, it has been going on for years and years and years, and there are multiple movies, manga, anime, there's apparently a couple more movies after the one that most of us watched. It's a lot of stuff. It's a very big thing over there. Anyway, so now that you have some idea of what we're doing here tonight, we're talking about... What are we talking about? Oh, yeah. Space Battleship Yamato. Space Battleship Yamato. One should be careful what one says. It's a movie that was assigned for us to watch by Tom, who just got a haircut. And every week we get together around this time, sometimes a little earlier, and talk about the movie that Tom assigned us. If you don't know what movie we're supposed to be talking about, then you need to get on the list. And you can either do that by going to Facebook and putting in Afterglow movie, 2 words, just evidenced by the space in between the 2 words that I said there, and searching for the list. I think it's the file section now. I don't remember. Or do what I do and just send a note to Tom, and he'll put you on his email, and he will send out something entertaining that probably has absolutely nothing to do with the movie we're going to watch, but it's entertaining nonetheless, and it has a link to watch the movie. And we'll be able to do these kind of entertaining movie things. Oh, I should just quit, yakking and start taking check-ins. It would probably be the best thing at this point. So, let me see. Yes, and I will start taking check-ins, so please come now. Call me, WT90, with your call sign, name, location, and whether or not you saw Space Battleship Yamato.
November 5 Yankee, Allen in North Garland, and yes, I saw it.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas, and I saw it.
I did see a little bit of it, but I'm here more for the laughs. KG5ZNJ.
November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom? Yep, we did.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. I watched the first part only.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Tango, Sierra Kilo, Berlin, Dallas. I did see the movie.
Kilo 5, Alpha, November, Echo, Yes, I saw it.
Think I double with someone, WB50ZL Brenda, I saw it.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. Tom, Louisville, with haircut. Yes, I saw it.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, J near Wilford, and I saw this movie.
Well, that was a very healthy group of people all of a sudden, all at once, kind of, sort of. Okay, so the first person, Alan, I believe, what was your call sign, and did you see the movie? Because I only caught part of your call sign.
November Golf 5 Yankee, Allen in North Garland, and yes, I saw the movie.
Awesome. Okay, so I got NG5Y, NT5TM, yes. KG5ZNJ, mostly yes. N5HYP, Tom, yes. N5BB, Bill, not really. KF5TSK, Burl, yes. K5ANE, Kane, who sounds like he's on extra super duper low power, yes. WB5OZL, Brenda, yes. TE5ICX, Tom, yes, even though he probably doesn't want to admit it. And KG5BZWJ, yes. Did I miss anybody?
This is Kilo Golf 5,
5 Papa Mike November, James, Oklahoma. I saw the movie.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Great. And I just got a comment from Kane, who's complaining that he's too far away. And still on high power, so yeah. Turn it up, hold your head right, I don't know, whatever. Okay, anybody else out there? KG5PMN, got him, yes, he saw it. Anybody else? Well, okay then. Well, we'll go on from here and see how it goes. Alan, I believe that was NG5Y. What do you think about the plot of Space Battleship Yamato?
Actually, I kind of liked it. It was entertaining. It wasn't entirely predictable, and moved along at a steady pace. Lots of action. NG5Y back to that.
That was probably one of the most succinct reviews I think I've ever heard on this net. Thank you. I'm not saying that's the only way to do it, but yeah, and that's kind of what I thought. I mean, it was different. It was probably because of the fact it's Japanese, a totally different sensibility, a totally different way. Well, not totally, but yeah, a different culture, and it was different and entertaining. NT5TM, Tony, you saw it. What do you think about the plot from WT9V?
Good evening, Michael. I'm glad you won the battle of the net controls. Thank you for being here. I may not be able to stay very late, so I might sneak in a couple of extra comments. I'm used to seeing, really cheap B movies, so I was shocked when it was heavily scored and had very expensive, very modern effects that actually contributed to the movie. I was really bewildered, so I had to go online. And yes, I had no idea that this was such a big deal in Japan, that this was bigger than Star Wars, that this was a major property. I would have thought of this as it was related somehow to a cartoon I saw when I was really small called Star Blazers, and I knew it had come from a Japanese show, and I thought, oh, this was something to do with that Japanese thing. So I was deeply surprised to discover that, yes, these were real stars in Japan. The lead guy was like a big famous guy from a popular boy band. I mean, this is a big deal. I was completely blown away by that. It was certainly very tightly paced. You have to. It was kind of a quiet movie. That was maybe YouTube's fault, but you still had to brace your ears because the action just never stopped. Kaboom, kablam, something's happening. There was never a let-up in the pacing. So that made its length much easier to deal with. Now, what was interesting about it, yes, it's very definitely a movie from a different culture. In America, we used to have different choices of cliches that as a filmmaker you could pick from. There were all sorts of different cliches available. And sometimes directors had to invent a new cliche, like the endless breakfast table in Citizen Kane that keeps getting longer and longer. But American movie making has largely abandoned that whole invent a new cliche thing or thinking. And so really the goal of every American movie is to somehow characters leave or they're eaten by aliens or something. So everything comes down to one romantic couple that has to live happily ever after. That is the ultimate American movie cliche now. And there are exceptions. believe I've been told the new Bill and Ted movie, they're friends. They're not a romantic couple. But by and large, that's the standard American cliche. Well, this is very much a Japanese movie. Everyone dies. Well, just about. Everyone is, even when they could have escaped or avoided or ejected, everyone just really seems to have as their goal figuring out how they can die honorably in battle. That is the goal of each individual character in the movie. And most of them do achieve that. So it is a very different set of cliches. It seemed well done. It was very tightly paced. I was surprised at its high production values. I'm not used to that on this net. And yeah, Erin thinks she might have liked that because she likes movies where all the characters die. Anyway, I was surprised, and now I have a whole lot more to learn. I might even have to go rewatch the cartoons from my childhood, perhaps in Japanese with subtitles instead of badly dubbed into English. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. And yes, I mean, it is. It is difficult sometimes to try and maintain one's composure while doing the net control stuff. If I have Tom up on the video, because there is, if y'all aren't watching the video too, you're missing out. You really should, go to YouTube or, click Dark Skynet. Just watch the antics of our overlord here, Captain Tom. In the meantime, KQ5, Zombies Need Jobs. Frank, what you got for us about this fine movie? Tony said it's good, so he's right. Can't argue with Tony.
This is KG5ZNJ. Well, it could be that this offering was too sophisticated and fine for my palate, and I just couldn't bring myself to sit through 2 hours of it. Seeing the captain didn't help. I'll explain that one in the characters, seeing as there's very few characters I sat through in this one, but I couldn't get into it at all. I tried, but nope, didn't like it. KG5ZNJ, back to you.
Well, yes, but did you like it? I'm not clear on whether or not you liked it. Anyway, moving on. N5HYP. Tom S. Since I've been chastised about, which Tom, now that we have, when we have multiple Toms. Or non-Captain Tom. What you got for us about plot? We're doing plot. Quit trying to move the thing ahead too far. There, Michael. From WT90.
This is N5HYP at work. I'm T1. But anyway, what did I think about the movie? And I'm only going to be around for one round. I've had a long day. Fun day, but a long day. Yeah, did I like the movie? Meh. It's interesting because it was Japanese, and so, and it, had a lot of kind of a Japanese imperialistic feel to it. They picked the name of Japan's largest battleship during World War II. I did read the Wikipedia article about it, and unfortunately, that battleship kind of, although it was supposed to be kind of the pride of the Japanese fleet, was kind of an ignominious end when it got destroyed by American bombers in 1945, and the hunky young rebel guy who became the captain, spoiler here, does bring back the memory of the namesake
battleship Yamamoto, and at one point in the movie when charging his crew to fight on. It was trying to bring back a piece of glory for Japan. Of course, I think some of the characters, of course, the overdub into English kind of makes some of the character play maybe more comical for our ears than we would think it would be, or it probably was for a Japanese audience. Special effects were not bad. Obviously, they didn't have Disney's budget for Star Wars or J.J. Abrams doing Star Trek. The effects were passable, and the music was kind of interesting. But the themes were very, almost too obvious in a way. It just kind of felt, kind of thrown together with cliche themes for sound and music, I should say. So that covers the whole darn thing. I'm out of here. God bless everybody. Good night from N5HYP.
All right, Tom. Have a good night. And Mr. White Gloves, who's primping in the camera, stop playing around and pick up the microphone, because I'm moving you up. It's your turn. What do you think about the plot? And don't say, oh, it was too long, or oh, I went to sleep, or blah, 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 blah. But, don't give me any of your typical excuses from WT9B.
Or something like that. I don't know. I probably shouted into the microphone. I was just turning the volume down. They've already done that anyway. Well, I think probably, I don't know this anime stuff. It's like animation or cartoons or something. And they put it all together into this film. And Tony makes a good point. The thing was tremendously popular in Japan. But so was... What was the thing? Oh, yeah, Godzilla and a couple other things. And I'm talking about the one without Remember in it. I thought it was kind of interesting. It went into overly elaborate detail, and when you put a 12-year-old in command of the World War II's greatest space battleship, I think it's Yamato. I think it's a lower A rather than whatever the hell it is. I get confused. But it went into unnecessary detail about all the characters and how they were all friends and everything. And by the way, here's the salute. Oh, that hurt. You got to be younger to do the salute thing, even with the gloves on. You notice that the commander didn't do it. Here, I'm doing my half-hearted salute thing that Captain Okita did. Yeah, it's Captain Okita. The Gamillas, or whatever the hell they were, I don't know. They were kind of boring and kind of doing whatever it is that the Gamillas do, and they went to the planet and they found out that there wasn't any radiation and it was a big fake, and they win and they lose and they blow the thing up, and I'm not sure what the bomb thing was about that got stuck in the maul of the space battleship Yamato. It was kind of weird looking. I'm not sure what that really means in the scheme of things, but I did a right turn and I realized I shouldn't be doing that. The launch took forever to get the Yamato out of the ground, the barren ground. It took days to get that thing out, and they engaged thousands and thousands of buttons. you know, on Star Trek, I have to tell you, when they engage something on the Enterprise, they got to do the particle thing on the deflector shield and send the positronic protons, negatrons, or whatever the hell it is to make it do something in blue. But they do that in about a minute and a half, or not even a minute and a half, like 30 seconds. On this thing, it took longer than an aborted SpaceX launch to get everything to work. It was just unbelievably slow. The different groups on board the ship were, you know, quite interesting in the sense that they were all wearing different leather outfits, much like on the Enterprise, only without the leather. And the jackets, the bowling jackets that everybody wore, you know, it suggested different groups doing different things. You got the Marines, the ground pounders. You got this other group over here that makes sure that the food thing is stuffed with food because there's nobody around. Even the bar is an automat. Everything's a freaking automat. Gee, that's really exciting. You can't even talk to the bartender. You gotta, like, you know, look at the menu and say, geez, could you talk to me about what we're doing? Because this is really tough stuff. And it goes, cash or charge. Jeez. Let's see, I'm not sure I got more. By the way, I want to say, I have a beef with NG5Y Alan. He recommended this film, and he gave like 2 words about the film. It was good. Alan, you are on report, and I have the white gloves to prove it. You have to say more about the film, maybe the characterizations. Go and Google it, find out. I've got the gloves. This is important, and I also got the microphone. The big microphone that completely hides your face, which is what I'm doing right now. All right, that's it for me for right now. I'm curious to see what others have to hear, not see, but hear what others have to say. This is Captain Aquila out, KE5I6.
Two things, Tom. One, that's a cell phone, not a microphone. It may have a microphone in it, but it's not a microphone per se. And two, in all fairness, they've done the engage thing, you know, lots of times on this, you know, the Enterprise. This was the first time that they, you know, launched the Yamato. You know, it wasn't the 4,000th time. It was just the first time. So, you know, cut them some slack. Some people. And also be very careful when you're giving yourself a precordial thump on your chest like that, lest you give yourself, you know, fibrillations and pass out while we're watching you. Well, some of us are watching you. I'll probably call 911 if I, you know, I'll probably put the microphone down and call 911. Anyway. N5BB, Bill, who didn't really watch most of the show. I'm sure you have. Try to keep it under 5 minutes, Bill. From WT9V.
Oh. This is N5BB. Well, I had the same trouble as somebody earlier, I forget who it was, that looked at the first few minutes and just decided they couldn't wade through the whole thing. So here's what turned me off about it. Right at the start, Tony said they were cool special effects. This movie isn't that old. It was done 10 years ago. But to me, the explosions and, in particular, inside the spacecraft, they had these spark things dropping, and it looked like, you know, 1978 special effects to me. The spacecraft, also the fighters were like something out of the original Star Wars movie or something. They were aerodynamic. They didn't look like what I expect space to be like in the future. I mean, this movie isn't anything new. It's this old genre, and it's just continued. It's just some old tropes. That's what I would say. It's tropes. So the other thing that turned me off, this is right at the start of the movie, was the main battleship there looked like a actual battleship with gun turrets that turned and all this stuff. Doesn't look like anything you'd put up in space. And for what you're describing later in space, it's more of that. So, to me, it's something done for kids decades ago that's totally out of date in this millennium, if you ask me. Anyway, the other things that bothered me, real early in the movie, the first few minutes, they came out something with this phrase similar to the edges of space reach out to infinity. The edges of space reach out to infinity. I realize it's translated from Japanese, but certainly they could have come up with something better than that or more exciting. That doesn't seem very exciting to me. I was also really bothered by the camera. So the first part of the movie, the camera's moving all over the place. If you've got some actor there that's getting ready to say something, the camera moves in on them, and then it swings around to show it to somebody else. It's moving around in this very weird fashion. I personally hated the cinematography there in the early parts of the movie. It reminded me again of an old a marionette or a stop-action movie from the late 1960s or something. 60s or 70s kind of movies. It didn't remind me of anything done in this millennium. And maybe that was the idea. I also thought the early part of the movie, there were two kinds of acting. There were the people just sitting there kind of stiffly, hardly moving, saying, "Oh no, something's wrong, it's not going to work." Or there's the guy screaming, "Ah!" And there's nothing else in between. There's the commander sitting up there, very stoic with his white gloves, barely moving an eyelash. And then you got other people at their consoles, very stereotypical, all lined up in rows, sitting there doing, I don't know, it didn't look very realistic to me. To me, the original Star Trek, where they showed how the different characters interacted with each other on the bridge, was much more realistic than this movie. This movie looked like it was scripted. Well, again, it reminds me of older Japanese movies, and maybe it's supposed to. It's in that genre, and it's just continuing that genre. I don't care about that genre, so that's why I didn't watch the rest of the movie. Hope that makes sense. In 5BB.
Well, let's see. It says here that it was a futuristic look without losing sight of the 70s illustration style of its prototypical animation. So, yeah, basically they were not trying to do something completely new. They were trying to continue the saga, which probably explains why it was something you didn't like it. Anyway, moving on, let's see. KF5 TSK. Burl, you saw it. What did you think from WT9V?
This KF5 TSK. Well, I would say that I think the thing that was really missing in the whole movie was, you had aliens attacking Earth. And from what I can see, they really didn't have any bodies. And yet they were building spaceships and bombarding Earth. Why are they coming to Earth? I mean, it would make more sense as, we need water. I mean, why are they coming here? They don't have bodies. You know, they can only talk through people. They seem to know everything that we know, and yet they give us, oh, let's just send plans to the warp drive, and they'll know how to get to us faster. It makes no sense that, the aliens have no bodies, but they have this knowledge, and it's like, we'd like to conquer Earth. Well, what was it that, that made them up? It was like, we have this continuous conscience that we're all linked together, and it's like, they could be on Earth and we wouldn't even know that they're here. Why build a spaceship? Why build these, large spaceships? And what enemy gives their opponent, oh, we'll give you the plans to build a warp drive. And yet after they built a warp drive, it's like, oh, the Constellation, they have a warp drive on all their ships. And it's like, well, what this movie just doesn't make sense. And back to, it seemed like someone went and watched Star Wars because all their fighters look like Star Wars. Analyzer looked like R2-D2 when he was on the fighter. Everything about the battleship looked like Battlestar Galactica. It was like, we'll watch Star Trek and all these movies, and then we'll create something. It was like they threw something in for everybody that we'll have love and romance and hate, all this macho, I'm in charge. That's all I'm going to say for now. KF5 TSK back to net.
I'm not sure what. I'm a little confused because they had bodies. They were, one of them got out and was running around in one of the hangar bays, and then there were tons of them that were attacking the people when they got to the planet. So I'm a little confused there, Pearl. But that's okay. I'll carry on and see if Kane can get it into get his radio into the repeater from wherever he is. Oh, that's right. He's camping this week in from WT9V. You out there, Kane? Come on, you can do it. Come on, turn it up to extra high.
All right, I think I got my antenna a little bit up higher. Hopefully that works a little bit better. And I hope I'm not too annoying coming across, both by being scratchy and noisy on the radio and just saying annoying things. So, anyways, about this movie and about people making references to this thing kind of ripping off Star Wars, well, this actually came out a few years before Star Wars came out. So if anything, Star Wars is ripping off this movie. Well, maybe not this movie, but the original animated series. This started off in 1964, and the original Star Wars, I think, came out in 1977. So, if my math is right, I guess, then this is actually an older series, and therefore the source artwork originally would then be older. That said, it definitely has a lot of weird quirks, plot-wise, that come off from strange timing of things. And it's like, well, I guess it makes sense if you're, like, reading in these, like, large pages of artwork and whatnot, that you kind of accept this big exchange kind of takes place in a second. Like, near the end, when they're on the bridge and they're trying to get everybody off, it's just like, why are we still here talking? Like, isn't the Earth about to be blown up? It's like, we've got like 5 minutes here, let's just talk about it first. And I guess there's just a number of other things too, just weird pacing and, they would
pop out, have some kind of weird names or something like that. You know, it would make sense, you know, if you're framing it as some cell of an anime, it's totally fine. But so it's kind of an interesting thing seeing, you know, an anime but done in real life, but trying to be an anime. Because oftentimes these kind of live action anime movies, they really try to make it a live action movie that takes place in the same kind of universe, you know. But you know, for trying to do that, I guess they did a good job, but it definitely feels weird in a lot of the pacing, and some of the basic plot ideas are kind of strange looking at it. You know, I don't know, at any time, I guess, how you just from 1974 or whatever. I'm still trying to understand, are those creatures that they're fighting, like, are they kind of like weird, organic, inorganic, hybrid machine kind of things, or are they like actual creatures? Because it kind of seems like they were, you know, one with the machine that they were flying and whatnot. They're all kind of integrated. I understand that there's the pipeline thing with this weird crystal memory, logic, soul thing that floats around. But yeah, lots of questions still about that. I don't know if there's other material that expands on it. Yeah, I think I'll probably save everything else for the other sections here on this net. Back to you, net control. This is K5ANE.
Oh, all right. Fortunately, my radio does go up to 11, possibly 12. I think I got most of that. But what I did get was good. Maybe it's just my fading ears. And speaking of fading ears, it's time for WB5OZL. Brenda, tell us what you thought about the plot for Space Battleship Yamato.
This is WB5OZL. In years? Really? W's I take. I like this movie. I was ready not to, and I didn't like it a lot right in the beginning. And I'm not sure why, but it grew on me. To me, the mark of a good movie is, do I care? Do I want, you know, do I care what happens to these people? Do I care what happens in the story? And do I care if they live or die? We've watched a lot of movies where I'm rooting for everybody to die, but I like these people. It was, I hate to use a word like unsophisticated, because this is a foreign film, but there were some elements to it that were like kind of simple, and or maybe simple, but that's okay. It's different culture. I do have some questions. Why does the spaceship look like a seagoing battleship, and why does it look like a shark? I didn't get that. Why it had all those turrets on the top. Just never seen a battleship with ocean-going ships, guns and things on the top of it. So, I mean, obviously they're channeling the original ship Yamato, but you know, why? I don't know. One of my favorite parts of the movie was when this guy climbs into his fighter, and he's doing a pre-flight, and he says, left wing check, right wing check. I thought, really? This reminds me of one of my favorite cartoons, The Far Side, where the cockpit has a toggle switch that says, you know, wings stay on, wings fall off. It just brought that image to me. You know, you check if you have wings. And nothing else. I thought the story was pretty good. It was too long. About 30 minutes less would have been better because I was ready for it to be over. And but on the whole, I thought the story was pretty good. It held together. It was coherent. You cared, and I mean, it's sad everybody dies, but you know, they were heroes, and that's what happens. All right, I'm going to stop for now. WB50ZL.
Well, presumably, not everybody died. I mean, we hope not, 'cause otherwise what would be the point? I don't know. Well, I'll have to go back and watch the sequel. Oh, let's see, where am I? Where's my list? Oh yeah, there it is. Yay! KG5BW. Near Weatherford. Not in, but near Weatherford. What you got for us, Jay? From WT9V?
This is KG5BZW. And about the plot. Well, this is... I'm kind of an avid consumer of certain Japanese, like, anime and stuff like that. And I think there are a few good Japanese sci-fi stories. I'm not sure what I think of this film, though. I mean, I'm still kind of interested in it. I can tell that there's a lot of serious compression because there's aspects to the film where they seem to go to extra detail, and then all of a sudden there's like you just gotta take it what we say with a grain of salt or 100 grains of salt, whatever. It's lots of detail and then no explanation. Lots of detail with no explanation. I noticed that throughout the film, and I'm going to say I like the film, but it's more like I don't hate it. I like the music. I know we're talking spot and everything, but come on, it's 11:30. I'm not sure how we're going to cover everything. Definitely Japanese film, definitely, older influences on it. I am kind of curious about any manga and anime that might be related to this, but I might want to get the clip notes just to see if there is such a thing. The plot did proceed, I don't know if I want to call it tight. I thought it was lots of stops and goes. And a lot of the goes were where, like I was saying, it's like, oh, well, we can do this now. It's like, okay. I have to admit, I'm not that big a fan of when things are just left explained, when they kind of relate to what's going on. I don't know if this movie could have been done. I mean, clearly, it's really weird how it's like how long the film is, but I get it's about the compression of the whole thing, and I've seen it. There's certainly Netflix adaptations of anime seem to be very poor in that respect. This is a lot better than that. mean, I could. A lot of the other things I think of are like character related or music related, and I don't know if I have really deep thoughts about the music other than it seemed to have good, production value along with the film. So I guess I'll probably stop it there. Man, so many people comment so many things. I don't know if I'll try to have some more comments later if I'm awake at that time. But anyway, I'll hand it over to Nick Control. This is KQ5BCW.
All right, Jay, thank you very much. And that brings us around to James. Is it James? Not James. James. In Oklahoma, KG5, PMN. Oh, I got confused there. I knew your name was James, and then my brain kind of went, anyway. James, KG5, PMN from WT9V. What you got about the plot on Space Battleship Yamato?
This is Kilo Go 5, Papa Mike November. The plot, I understand the plot, kind of flowed along. The Earth is radioactive. They got an indicator going somewhere in deep space that they could do something special to their ship and make it travel a lot faster to and from and get back and pick up something up there in another galaxy somewhere and bring it back and cure the radiation problem, which apparently whatever was up there was not true, but I didn't care for the movie very much, personally. I don't know if it was the style of Japanese. I'm not used to Japanese movies. I do like some of the British humor and the British stuff, which I'm kind of more accustomed to, but this thing seemed to have too many starts and stops and twists and too many scene changes in there to keep up with. And all of a sudden, they're in a fight, and then there's a low spot, and then there's a problem, and then they're in a fight again, and another low spot, or slow spot, and then, I don't know, I had a hard time kind of keeping up with some of it. Let's send it back to the net, KG5PMN.
All right, thank you very much. This is where I'm supposed. Well, actually, first thing I'm going to do is, are there any other check-ins? Anybody else out there that would like to comment on this amazing cinematic journey that we all endured? No, what's the word I'm looking for? Undertook this last week? Any other check-ins? Please come now. Name, call sign, and whether you saw the film. Okay, I'll take that as a no. Let's see. Do I have any other comments that I haven't already made about this? I'm kind of, as much as I hate to admit it, I kind of agree with Brenda. It did seem to drag on a little bit at times, but the more it went on, the more interested I got. And it was like, I started out kind of like, watching it with one eye while I was doing other things, and it was like, whoa, wait a minute, what did I miss? And just run it back and watch the thing, and watch bits of it again, and I paid more attention, and I wanted to see what was happening and where the story was going. I thought it was interesting. I don't have any good analysis like some of the folks have. But I enjoyed it. I think that's the important part of these movies. It's something I would never have ever thought to watch otherwise. So, thank you, Alan. And speaking of Alan, it's now time for Alan to talk about the characters and the characterization in the movie that apparently he suggested. So, take it away, Alan, in G5Y from WT9V.
Well, I thought the captain of the ship was really pretty plastic. Didn't have much reaction to anything. Just kind of sat there while his friend decided to sacrifice himself and his crew to allow the battleship Yamato to escape. And then later on in the script, again, he still didn't have much to say, much to react to. He really didn't even give any much reaction until he found out that he was having some kind of medical issue and didn't have much longer to live, and he gave himself up to the primary character of the episode. At that point, then it was kind of almost funny. He said, "You don't have any choice in the matter. You're the captain of the ship now, and you don't have to captain the way I did. Just do your best, and it's all your cup of tea. Go ahead with it." I liked the movie because it did have a special effects budget. It didn't seem to suffer from your 99-cent style animation. It had some good moments to it. It wasn't entirely predictable as to how the movie would proceed. I thought it was overall pretty good for a nice diversion. NG5Y back to the net.
All right, thank you very much. Tony, I believe I think you said you were still going to be out there, around. I'll shut up before you go to sleep. NT5TM, you still out there, Tony, from WT9V.
Well, I meant to go to bed, but you people are spoiling my evening by saying interesting things and keeping me engaged and having fun. I guess that's kind of meant to be an ironic complaint. I'm not really complaining very much. The were mostly pretty stock. Some cliches were uniquely Japanese, but some cliches seem to be cross-cultural. The male and female protagonists both hated each other so much when they first met that you just knew they had to end up together romantically. I mean, that's just the way movies work. You know, it was nice that they seemed to emphasize some personal growth on the part of the male protagonist. So often the hot dog maverick type person just keeps right on doing that throughout the movie, and Tom Cruise likes to do things that would get a real Navy pilot lose his pilot's license for the rest of his life and run out of the service. So they did show him grow, and that was nice. Although again, I think most of the characters were really pretty stock and often in ways that were pretty cross-cultural. The Marines all act like Marines, and the doctor acting like a doctor, and so forth. And it was enjoyable, even if the characters weren't particularly deep. And I think this time I will try to just switch to listening mode because it's late. NT5DM, thank you all for keeping me up.
Well, all I can say is if you're expecting me to apologize for us being entertaining, it ain't gonna happen. Thank you for your comments. And let's see. Frank in Flower Mound. our zombie leader. Are you still out there, Frank? Do you have any more comments? Is anything that anybody said sparked something in your fertile brain from WT9V?
This is Kilo Golf 5. Zombies need jobs. Well, a comment for Tom. I'm watching him on YouTube, and the one accoutrement you are missing is a whistle. So you could do the traffic cop routine. That would be pretty good. And barring that, if you don't have a whistle, you could do the jazz hands. That would work really nicely with the white gloves. As for the characterizations, well, I only watched about 10 minutes, but the ship captain reminded me immediately of a character in Canada that, of course, nobody here will know about most likely, but there's a line of frozen seafood in Canada for the last 50 years called Captain Highliner, and their mascot or logo is basically what you saw on the screen there, except, it's a Japanese guy. It's not a Japanese guy, but exactly the same. Same outfit, same stoic nature. And I grew up with the commercials for 40 years plus of Captain Highliner, and they always start the same. It's Captain Highliner with a young boy named Billy, and, well, they all have to talk like a maritimer there from Summerside, and he always starts the commercial there where he says, "Hi, Billy, ever been to sea before?" And Billy always says, "No, Captain Highliner." And there's 40 years worth of Canadian jokes that there's a punchline that comes after that exchange, some of which are absolutely hilarious. Give a Canadian 40 years to come up with a punchline. They'll come up with a few good ones, but unfortunately, there's no way I could ever repeat them, as the FCC would end my tenure as a radio operator. Anyways, I just couldn't get over the Captain Highliner there, and that's one of the main reasons why I just couldn't stomach that movie, unfortunately. So I really want to say a few things, but I can't because I'll get in trouble. I really have some good material here, but I got to hold back. I have to be civil. Anyways, back to you, KG5ZNJ.
So I am not sure what that your comments made me think of, whether it's the cockpit scene in Airplane, or for those of you that might remember the 90s TV show Dinosaurs, where the subplot Ask Mr. Lizard, I believe it was, where they were constantly going through Timmy's. We're going to need another Timmy. If you never saw it, you should have. Let's see, and since Tom 1 isn't here anymore, then that brings up Tom 2, I guess, or Tom 0. What is the numbering scheme here? Get back in your chair, Tom. It's your turn. KE5ICX from WT9V.
Well, I ran off to see if I could find the baby. I'm the baby, gotta love me. I'm very warm and cuddly. Even though I hit my father with a frying pan again. Yeah, I love that series very much. We're talking about the characterizations. Over the top. Everybody was over the top. Everybody, and the salute. Oh, God, that hurts. We call that the Sergeant Sacto salute in Detroit because of Sergeant Sacto and Channel 50 and WKBD. It even creeped over into Canada, or as they call it, Canada. But I think, though, hold on. I think the characterizations were somewhat superficial. You're doing the same thing over and over again. You got the Japanese doing the high, so low, and all that, and I got gloves on, see? And you're trying to figure out exactly where they're going with this thing, and it's always the same thing. It's blind loyalty to stuff, and you're going to make things work. I work for a company that is very close to the Japanese, really close, and they do a lot of this stuff. Well, not with Godzilla and battleships that were sunk, but they have a tendency to kind of keep that in mind. They got a little book and they read through it, and it's sort of the same things where you get all hyped up and you know, go into hyperdrive and send out pulse cannons and do those things, only it's all in your head. Let's see, I don't have my cheat sheet with the actors. Hold on, I could probably find, no, probably not now. There's so many tabs up, I don't think I can find it. Okay, the kid playing the captain after the other captain wouldn't die and then finally did die. That guy went on for like, you know, 3/4 of the movie. He's just sitting there, he's up and he's got his microphone, the heavy microphone he can barely lift in his face. And the next thing you see is that he gives command to the kid, and then he tells the kid, you're good, and he does that half-hearted salute, and we know he's going to die because either he's bored or he's going to die. And I couldn't decide which it was until he finally died, which meant he was bored and then died, which is kind of what happened. And I don't know, do they jettison the captain with the white gloves out of the airlock? I don't know. Nobody knows for sure. But I'm sitting here trying to, you know, I don't know. And then they go down to the planet, and then you got the ground pounders, and they find out that this is a mission that's not really a mission. And then they find out that the radiation isn't radiation. I don't know what that was about. I get confused because this movie's now 2 hours in, and we got another 18 minutes to go, and we just don't know. And of course, the Captain Roy Kirk. Yeah, well, that was in that other movie, but they probably stole it from this. There is a Roy Kirk, I think. I can't remember. But, you know, and then you're trying to figure out exactly what is the motivation? What are they doing? Why are they doing this ultimately? Because it's sort of like they're on a fake mission. And then they blow up something. I don't remember what happens after that. He loses his girlfriend. Oh, that's right, because, Kirk's father, Kinti, whatever the guy's name is, I can't remember anymore. I don't have my cheat sheet up. He decides to stay on board, and he sends his girlfriend and shoots her in the back with something. I don't know what. That was kind of dramatic. And I think it was stun or something. I thought he tried to kill her. It was sort of like Romeo and Juliet. But in the end, she says no, and he goes in, and then he's got that thing in front of the maul of the ship that he's got to blow through the thing, and the other ship, the big capital ship of the whatever they are. Does it sound like it's confusing? Yes, because this is an overly complex plot that wasn't very complex when you really think about it. With this, they all had cool uniforms with the arrow pointing down at something, and that was okay. I know nobody was going to say it, but yeah, it had the arrow pointing down. And they had all the different divisions. They had a green division, they had a yellow division, they had some other division. I'm sure one's engineering, one is something else. But ultimately, I thought it was rather entertaining. I don't think it's worth 2 hours and 18 minutes of my life. Maybe 18 minutes, if you think about it. That would be good. I could go with that. 18 minutes of this is just about enough. And you can do whatever you want. And it had 3 bridges. Geez, even the Enterprise only had 2. They had 3 bridges, and they had people going, what do? Fight over the wheel or something? Yeah, this is Bridge 3. We're going to take control the ship, and then bridge 2 goes, no, oh, we're talking about what? Characterization. Never mind. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX. I have white gloves.
Far be it from me to ever contradict our space captain, but I think you're just jealous that your company doesn't have Godzilla come by now and then for morale purposes. And I think this is my theory that I came up with toward the end of the movie, that something got lost in translation, I think, but I think that the baddies were, quote, terraforming, which is improper use of the word, the Earth with radiation, and the goody faction could neutralize the radiation. But I could be completely wrong about that. I don't know. Don't quote me on this, because I could be wrong. But speaking of being wrong, I mean, no, it's in 5BB, it is your turn to say what you thought about characterization. I mean, the wrong part was, never mind. Bill, get me out of this, Bill. 17IV.
Oh, no. It's too late. I didn't watch the whole movie. You know I didn't like it. And I thought it was 1970s replayed 40 years later. I have no more comments. The end is nigh in 5BB.
Yeah, that's probably about right. All right, moving on. KF5, TSK, Burl. What do you think about the characterization of Space Battleship Yamato?
This KF5 TSK. Well, one thing I would say that the doctor really bothered me because it seemed like she did everything. She was interviewing people to be, I guess, members of the crew, and I was like, and yet Kodai, you know, she didn't have any tongue depressors, or she didn't have a stethoscope. It was like, well, why is she there? She always seemed to be out of place. You know, it was like she was going down to visit Kodai in the brig. One other thing in the movie was the multiple countdowns that every time they had, you know, were going to fire the gun, go to a warp drive, it was like we had this long countdown, and then we switched to something else, and we're not ready yet, and we're so many kilometers away, and you know, the strange thing about this battleship, it didn't have autopilot. Who built a spaceship that doesn't have autopilot? I remember when the Kodai's former crew came aboard, it was like they wanted to celebrate, and they had this one bottle, and it was like, you know, 10 people were going to drink out of that little bottle. It was like, well, no one's going to get very much out of it. But most of the characters were just, well, the captain, you know, I thought he could have been animated for, you know, he never moved. You know, you never really saw his lips. You know, it was like, you know, he could have been built and someone was operating the controls from somewhere. The other characters, it was just one of those plots that went on, and they just kind of, you know, threw everything in. KF5 TSK back to net.
Alrighty, and now it's time to see if Kane has improved his position with his antenna and can get into the repeater, but he is a long way out from where he normally is. I'll give him that. K5A&E How are you out there? Can you hear me? Can we hear you? Give it a shot, Kane. WT9V. I'll just say thank you. I'm sure what you said was good, but I actually couldn't make out anything but your call sign. Unfortunately. Where'd my list go? Not my list. I have lost my list. Did I lose my list? Oh, crud. Oh, no, there's my list. Get back over here. Quit hiding from me. Brenda, you are next. Brenda, Papa Yobi 50ZL. And Tom has his... Oh, I'm kind of jealous, Tom. Brenda, take it away, Brenda, from WT9V.
This is WB50ZL. Oh, Tom has a little baby dinosaur. We loved that show. We watched it all the time. And even now, my son and his wife claim that their son calls his daddy, not the mama. And I don't think he's ever seen the show. I think they planted that with him. But anyway, characterization. Most of the characters were pretty good. A lot of cute people there, especially the main star. He was pretty hunky. Didn't care for the captain. Now, I want to know why the captain only had 3 bars on his jacket. How come he didn't have 4? And I think it was a real problem that he didn't have a second in command that had 3 bars. So he's about to croak, and he just picks somebody at random that he thinks would be a good captain. Normally, you would have somebody who is ready to step in at, just if he's taking a nap. You've got somebody that can step into the role, has been trained for it. I'm getting back channel static here. This is characterization. The character of the captain was not appropriate. He should have been a captain, and he wasn't. And he only had 3 bars. Okay, I think I'm finished for now. WB50ZL.
Okay. KG5BZW. Jay, what you got for us on characterization from WT9V?
KG5BGW. Characterization. Well, okay. So there are a lot of characters that. Yeah, there's a lot of characters that we're introduced to, and they later die, and but still, I have to admit, I like the Marine, and his honorable defense. It's definitely I don't know if that's Japanese thing, but it's definitely a cliche of sorts, but still, it works, I guess, if you do it right. I thought it was okay. So many characters. I guess you have to focus on the captain and, the two teammates, the one, and of course I'm not good with character names, but I don't have a cheat sheet in front of me. So the hunk and the gal that was the former fan, but the little story plays out, and it turns out things are not, things were not as they had seemed. I don't feel like I'm going back to plot here. Those two characters, they developed, and they kind of developed through all of the other characters, and really, I suppose you could say those characters were all sacrificed for seeds. That's okay. Maybe there's a better way to it. That just seems kind of, I don't know. From an author's perspective, I guess that's how you could look at it. So, that all the other characters were really there to facilitate those to grow, and it just happened to die along the way. Captain, yeah, they could have been more to the captain. He had that certain stoicism to him, but it was just over the top, really. I feel like I'm saying a lot of stuff that people said. I'm not quite sure what else to say. You got the aliens, which happen to be. I'd love to know if these were basically. It's easy to look back and say, "Oh, these are Borg," but wait a second. Was this aspect of the story from before the Borg existed or whatnot, or who stole from who here? The tropes go back a long ways, don't they? And that was kind of. The enemies are just kind of flat.
W5FC.
You think a being that is a union of a whole bunch of characters would have a little bit more character to it, but I guess it didn't really have enough time to get into that. I'm blowing out of ideas here. So, back to net control. This is KG5BGW.
All right, Jay, and in case anybody missed it, the timeout timer has reset, so keep that in mind, lest we time out the repeater and he get mad at us. KG5 PMN, James, any thoughts on characterization at this point? We have a whole other round to go, and we're only just finishing up round 2 from WT9V.
This KG5BMN. Characters. I got a few thoughts. The captain kind of reminded me of the Sean Connery's character in Red October sitting up there in his chair, but unfortunately he didn't seem to ever make a decision on anything. He was just kind of there. I don't know what kind of sickness he had or what the issue was with him. As Brenda pointed out, there wasn't a second in command, and this made me realize, no second in command. There was also didn't seem to be any other departmental officers that you would think of, somebody in engineering and weapons and communications, anything like that. There didn't seem to be any other officers, and all the people that sat around the console were just kind of bland, and all of a sudden that they started squeaking when they had kind of remind me of squeaking when they had a issue crop up, and everybody started hollering, and I don't know if that was Japanese culture or not, but the guy that was found on the Earth and had all the, evidently survived the radioactivity issue, and came back, and when he re-enlisted, he seemed to all of a sudden start power trip, and the comment he made toward the girl when they were fixing to take off to go do some kind of fight was, all of a sudden she said, "You can't order me around." He said, "Yes, I can." And I re-enlisted. I became your squadron leader, and so that kind of seemed like that started on a power trip for him. And after the captain made him captain of the ship, then all of a sudden it was kind of like, well, I'm going to be the Superman of the show, and everything, I'm going to do everything, and everything's going to revolve around me. And when they stood up and had their whatever kind of meetings they had, that reminded me a lot of the Japanese photographs in the World War II era. Most of the pilots standing there drinking their sake and saluting their commanding officer, and then taking off to go fight their battles. And but then I guess maybe that's just Japanese culture. I don't know. Back to the net, KG5CMN.
Alrighty, thank you very much. And yeah, well, it's getting late, so I'll just run down through the list because we've lost a bunch of people so far. So, actually, I'll ask, is there anybody, it's a very late time that wants to check in? JJ, find your radio, check in from WT9B. Call, come to bed. I mean, come now with your call sign and name and things like that. I didn't think so, but I thought I'd give it a shot. G5Y, Alan, thoughts on the special effects and whatever else about the movie?
Well, I thought the special effects were good. Maybe not spectacular, but it didn't look like the dinosaur type special effects we've seen in some of the other movies recently reviewed. It did give me a lot of the Battlestar Galactica 1980 type I'm looking for the right word here. It seemed comparable to Battlestar Galactica, but overall I enjoyed it, and I thought it came off pretty well played. NG5Y back to that.
Alrighty, thank you very much. And Frank, KG5ZNJ. Tell us some more about Canada from WT9B.
This is KG5ZNJ. Well, you know, if Captain Highliner would have grown as a special attack to, maybe 200 feet tall and look like Ultraman and get out of the ship and then fight a giant robot of some sort, do a lot of karate. That I would have liked that. That would have been a really good movie. That would have salvaged it for me. And Brenda, those bars on them, those aren't bars. Those are fish sticks. KG5ZNJ, back to you.
I think that would have done it. That would have done something anyway. Tom, KE5ICX. What? Tom, your turn. WD93.
Oh man, I was supposed to be towards the end or something. I don't remember. All right. I'm so glad Frank's back. Frank, you gotta stick around. We can sing the Canadian national anthem together with the various words that probably neither of us know. In the end, let's talk about special effects and everything else. I liked them. I thought they did a good job with special effects for 2010. Yes, they were doing Battlestar Galactica, both versions, the original and the later one, the one that was way better by Ronald Moore. But in any case, I think overall they handled all of that pretty well, I have to admit. And it kept my interest. I go back to the original plot and the fact that they kept it reasonably fast-paced, even though the movie was 2 hours and 18 minutes long. Too long, I agree, because they kept repeating the same things over and over again, and sometimes they let the scenes run out longer. But we got a chance to see the special effects longer, too, because you can see what they were doing. I didn't think it was all that bad. I thought in the end, this was entertaining. Alan, thank you for suggesting this, because in the end, we never would have seen it. It's not like some of the movies we've seen where it was like totally bad and a waste of our time. This, which Brenda always picks, but in this case, I think the film had enough of an interest to it. Will I watch it again? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe on a rainy day. Maybe on a winter night or something. I might watch it again. It was entertaining enough that it wasn't. It seemed to work. So, yeah, there's a bit of that Japanese.
W5FC.
I forgot. I got to reset. Don't forget to reset. At 3 minutes, you time out. So, overall, not bad. I give it a C, C+. I thought it was entertaining, and I'll watch it again. KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom, and we will go to Burl first for his final commentary about special effects and whatever, and then we will go to Brenda for a rebuttal to the comment that you made about her favoring the terrible movies, which is true, but I'll let her, I'm sure she'll have something snarky to say. In the meantime, Burl, KF5 TSK, what do you have to say about special effects and such?
This KF5 TSK. I would say that I thought the special effects were good. One of the things about the movie is there was always some action going, and there was or maybe there was two things going at the same time, and it was like you never, some of the things, were drawn out, the countdowns and we're going to fire the weapon and, fire the main guns. And, but, overall, the movie moved along. It was too long, but, the special effects were good, and the movie didn't really have any boring things. K5 TSK back to net.
Alrighty there, and thank Thank you very much. And now it's time for Brenda to tell us how she's all upset about what Tom said. Take it away, Brenda.
This is WB50ZL. I don't understand. What am I upset about?
That Tom said you were the one that always picks the terrible movies.
Well, he's lying. I won't justify it by being angry, because it's not true. I have suggested one movie in all these years, and that was The Creeping Terror, and have never suggested another one. That could change. I may start, but I don't know why everybody blames me for these, because the person who's responsible should be the one getting the blame, not me. Let's see, do I want to talk about this movie anymore? It was pretty good. Like the music. I like the special effects. Alright. I'm going to relinquish this for now. WB50ZL.
For now? You're going to relinquish it for now? So, apparently, if you go online and look, a admiral in the Japanese Imperial Navy has what looks like, from a distance, would look like 3 stripes. But it's actually like 5. But 3 of them are real close together and would probably look like one. So, maybe the captain was an admiral. TT5BZWJ, what do you have to say to wrap this thing up? You're not the last one. James is the last one. But what do you have to say about special effects and other things for tonight from WT9V?
This is KG5EW. Yeah, the special effects were pretty good. There's a certain cheesiness to having space turrets like a battleship, but I don't think you can really overcome that with special effects. I think that's just the whole concept. It just needs to be reworked, but hey, whatever. That's what the source material was, I guess. Besides that, there's going to be some aspect of this film that's going to age probably in the next 10 years or so. And it's like, oh, that dirt don't look like, or that rock or whatever, break apart, not even close to, whatever they figured out 10 years from now or even now. But, it's still, there's nothing really, it seems typical and not too bad. So, in fact, mostly good. The music, I really like the music, the orchestrations. I kind of surprised how Western it felt. Of course, maybe good music doesn't really have a Western feeling or Eastern or whatever. It just has a, good feeling. And I thought, for the most part, the theme in the background didn't, it complimented the film. Let me see. There's the credits. There's a guy that whoever was singing. I actually had to Shazam the end and sing me. He sounded a lot like Steve Tyler to me. Maybe that's just Aerosmith. But I don't know. I thought that was a good rocker voice. Anyway, even if it was Japanese, I don't know what I'm trying to say there. It was a good Japanese singer. But anyway, what else to say? I can't really say much more because of part time out. So, thumbs up. KG5BCW, back to net.
Thank you, Jake. And that brings us around to KG5PMN. James, what do you think about the special effects?
KG5PMN. I thought the special effects could probably be better. Now in the days of more computer animation and computer graphics and things of that nature. A lot of the special effects on there kind of reminded me of what they were doing actually back in the 70s, like I think somebody else had mentioned earlier. You know, even back in the Star Wars era with the X-Wing fighters doing their flying around, doing their fighting things, and the one clip of him flying through those, I don't know, sentries or whatever was around when he was fixing to land on the planet to hunt that piece of anti-radiation matter or whatever they were going to the planet to retrieve and to help cure the radiation on Earth. That kind of reminded me of when Luke Skywalker flew through that canyon on the Death Star to shoot that proton torpedo down that exhaust hole or whatever that, well, whatever that was. He put the proton torpedo down to blow up the Death Star, and I don't know. I just thought between over the years, computer graphics could be a lot better than what they were. Back to the net, KG5PMN.
W5.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's see. I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I thought the effects were good. They weren't. You know how in sometimes special effects, it's like that's, oh, we have this new special effect thing that we can do. Let's put it in a movie. What are we going to do in the movie? Well, we don't know. Just put the effects in there. And, you know, wrap the story around the effects. You know, the better special effects are the ones that aren't terribly in your face. I don't know. I'm trying to remember. There weren't a whole lot of them that stood out, really. It just, maybe I was just enjoying the show, and for the most part, except when it got really slow. The movement of the animated CGI characters was pretty good. Wasn't Sinbad or anything bad. I don't know. I'm gonna stop now before I get too far. Tom, you haven't told me what next week's movie is, so I'm just gonna put you on the spot. Tom, what is next week's movie from WT9P?
Oh, well, I'm ready. I will tell you, and we're over time. Here it is. Actually, I think you're going to like this one. It's called Flight World War II. Flight World War II. And believe it or not, there's a 757-200 involved in that. That's an airplane, Boeing. 757-200B, in fact. In Flight World War II from 2015. Do the math. KE5I6.
You can't see this because you're the one with the camera at the moment, but my forehead is very furrowed. Did they have a 757s in World War II? I don't remember that from the history books. Is this revisionist history?
Oh, silly boy. It was a 7X7. Boeing could do anything with that. KE5I6.
How dare you call me silly? All right, that's it. I'm done. We've run out of things to talk about, unless people want to talk about other things. In which case, you can talk now, and we'll just, I'll step down and we'll just have a round robin of, whoever wants to talk. Kind of like we do after every net that is kind of fun, and there's still people sticking around. So, it's been fun. It's been real. It's been real fun. Y'all have a good week. You sleep well, things like that. And yeah, we'll be around for a little bit. WT90.
Thanks for doing the net, Michael. That was lots of fun. This is WB50ZL.
Michael, were you thinking of Mr. Wizard back a while ago? Was that what I reminded you of? KG5ZNJ.
Well, see, sort of. There was a show back in the 90s called Dinosaurs, and among the many, many, many things that they did comedic takeoffs on, one of them was Mr. Wizard. And there was a segment, if I remember correctly, called Ask Mr. Lizard. And it was Mr. Lizard and his young assistant, Timmy. And Timmy kept coming to bad ends. Like, one of the ones that I remember fondly was when they were demonstrating how jet engines work, and they said, "Okay, Timmy, just get up on this stool and look in this end of the engine." And then, the jet comes on, and there's this smoking place where Timmy's head was, and the punchline, "We're gonna need another Timmy."
I got a couple of Mr. Wizard stories if you want to hear them. KG5ZNJ.
Well, yeah.
So, yeah, this was, I'm trying to remember the year. It was 1985 or something like that. Probably 1985, maybe 1986. And it was New Year's Eve. And I was with some of my friends, and we were in high school at the time. And we were at somebody's house, and, we were supposed to go to a big party that somebody's parents was having, and it was really cold that night. And I just remember we walked about a mile, and it was minus 30, and we're all freezing to death. And we went in the house, warmed up, and, it was, we used to call, we used to call a party like that, I can't remember how it goes anymore. A pop party, something like Pop Chips and Parents, I forget. There's a punchline, and I'm not getting it right. But it was, it was one of those parent parties, where you couldn't let loose, and it was New Year's Eve. And on the first floor, I went down to where the parents were on the first floor. Us kids were upstairs, and that's where the nefarious stuff was happening upstairs. And you know how Canada is. And I was angry at somebody. Something happened. I don't remember what it was, but I was pretty pissed off about something. And I didn't want to be on the second floor, so I went downstairs where the adults were, because I needed to cool off. And it was an old house in kind of a nice part of town, and kind of like a Victorian house, pretty fancy, like one of those houses that has a separate stairwell for servants, for like 100 years before or whatever. And in the hallway, there was this little table and a little chair, and there was an old man sitting there. And I said, "What's this guy doing in the hallway just by himself?" It's like, oh, he's like me. He's pissed off about somebody. He doesn't want to be with anybody. So I went up to him, and I said, "Hey, man," I said, "Hey, I'm going to get you a drink. I'm going to go get a beer in the fridge, I was underage, who cares? And he goes, "You know what? Yeah, give me a beer." I give him a beer. We start drinking. And one beer turns into about 3 or 4, and then, let me reset. then we start doing shots, and we're both laughing our head off. And, this guy's like got to be 70, and I'm 16 or 17, and we're just having a great time. And then I said, well, I've been here long enough, got to go. And I went back upstairs, and one of my friends said, he goes, you know who that was, right? And I said, who? And I said, that's Don Herbert. That's Mr. Wizard. I said, what? And he said, yeah, that's Mr. And sure enough, it was, because the show had many iterations, I think, and they did the last two in Canada, and the person's house, the guy who owned it, was a TV producer. So I tied one on with Mr. Wizard, so kind of funny. KG5 San and J.
And you didn't even get your head blown off. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and if you remember the show, I don't know if you guys remember SCTV, you probably do, but it was shown in the U.S. for the last 2 years of its existence, but for many years it was a comedy show in Canada, and it had John Candy. And John Candy did the best Mr. Wizard spoof, and it was John Candy and doing the Mr. Wizard thing, and his assistant Timmy was this kid, and it always started off with Mr. Wizard all hung over, and the studio lights go on, and it's clear that he spent the night in the studio all messed up. And he said, Timmy, we're going to learn about combustion. Let's go in that ashtray and find me an old cigarette and light that up. It's just hilarious. You have to see it. Anyways, KG5 Zen and J.
So I remember those. In the meantime, go on Google and just type in "Ask Mr. Lizard," and you'll see what I was talking about. Good one. That was a great show. It was one of those wonderful shows that worked on multiple levels. There was stuff for the kids, and then there was stuff that went right over the kids' heads that was there for the adults.
Yeah, I didn't make the big deal of it. I was like, Mr. Wizard, because I don't think I had seen very much of that show growing up. Now, if that had been Fred Rogers, that would have been epic. I wish it was, but it wasn't. KG5 Zen and J.
Well, in all fairness, if it had been Fred Rogers, you probably would have recognized him.
Got this bloody dog just jumping all over me. Goddamn right. Oh, sorry about that. KG5's energy.
Yep. I am amused by your story of getting drunk with Mr. Wizard. Anyway, WT9V. Y'all have a good night.
Hi, Roger Dodger. I'll talk to you guys later. KG5 Z and J.